Welcome to the deep dive. So you're thinking about maybe investing in a condo over in Phuket.
Mm-hmm.
And just so everyone's clear from the get-go, we're saying Phuket. That's P-O-O-K-I-T, not, how some people might say it differently.
Right, Phuket. Got it.
You sent over some material from Ocean Worldwide. Seems like you're trying to figure out if Patong is the right particular area within Phuket.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to narrow it down.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. Let's really dig into the pros and cons of buying a condo in Patong, Phuket, using this blog post from Ocean Worldwide as our guide.
Sounds good. And it's worth mentioning who Ocean Worldwide are, just for context.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Tell us.
They're a luxury real estate agency, actually based right there in Phuket.
Yeah.
Been operating since 2004, so, quite a while.
20 years.
Yeah. The director is Sandra O'Neill, and apparently she and her team, they've helped literally thousands of families and investors over the years. And they specialize not just in Phuket, but Koh Samui, too, mainly focusing on that high-end luxury residential stuff. So their perspective, it's built on a lot of practical, on-the-ground experience in that specific market.
Right. That's really valuable context. Good to know where the info's coming from. Okay, let's dive in then. Patong.
Yeah.
You're looking there. What does Ocean Worldwide say about the real estate scene right now? What's the overall vibe?
Well, the Ocean Worldwide Post paints it as a pretty active market dynamic. You've got this big range in property prices.
That you'd kind of expect, right? Popular spot.
Exactly. It's been developing for ages. So Ocean Worldwide mentions you can find these older condos, maybe a bit cheaper. But, and this is the catch they point out, they often need quite a bit of work. Renovations, updates, that kind of thing.
Right. Sweat equity needed.
Yeah. And then on the other side, you've got the brand new, shiny developments, more high-end, and naturally, they come with a much higher price tag.
Makes sense. So, okay, if I'm looking at a specific condo, trying to gauge its value, what are the things Ocean Worldwide says I really need to look at? What matters most?
Location, location, location. They really stress this.
Always comes back to that, doesn't it?
Pretty much. Especially in Patong. Anything right on the beach or super close, that carries a big premium. Ocean Worldwide is clear on that.
Okay. Besides just being near the sand.
Then you look at the condo itself, the size, how it's laid out. And importantly, the building's condition. Is it well maintained? Does it look tired? Are there known issues? Ocean Worldwide says you got to check all that stuff thoroughly because it all feeds into the real value.
Right. Now, Patong, surely a huge part of the appeal is renting it out to tourists. What does Ocean Worldwide say about, rental yields? Investment returns?
They do say that yields can be pretty good. Attractive is the word they use, especially if you're aiming for that short-term holiday rental crowd. The demand is definitely there.
But I sense a but coming.
Yeah, there's always a but. They caution it's not just easy money, not passive income in the true sense. You've got costs to factor in.
Like what?
Management fees, for one. Ongoing maintenance things break. And importantly, vacancy periods. You won't have it rented out 365 days a year.
Right. Those empty weeks can hit the bottom line hard.
They really can. And Ocean Worldwide brings up competition, too. That's a big one in Patong. There are so many condos.
Saturation.
Exactly. So to actually get those attractive returns they talk about, your place needs something extra. It has to stand out.
How do you do that, according to them?
They suggest focusing on desirable features. Great views are a big plus. Sea view condos, they mentioned specifically, are really sought after.
Okay.
And having top-notch amenities in the building or even in the unit itself helps attract the kind of renters who pay good money.
So it's about offering a premium experience, not just a bed. Looking down the road a bit, Patong always seems to be changing. Does Ocean Worldwide talk about future development plans? How might that shake things up?
Yeah. They touch on that. They call Patong dynamic, constantly evolving, new developments, infrastructure projects. These can be a double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, on the one hand, new stuff like better roads, maybe new shopping centers that can boost property values over time, attract more tourists too, which helps rentals. That's the upside.
And the downside.
Construction itself. Ocean Worldwide points out that building sites mean noise, dust, disruption. That might put off some renters, at least temporarily, while the work's going on.
Yeah, trying to relax on holiday next to a building site isn't ideal. So how do they suggest people keep track of what's planned?
Basically, keep your ear to the ground, check official announcements from the local authorities, follow the local news. That's where you'll get the reliable info.
Okay.
And the main takeaway from Ocean Worldwide on this is just The market there isn't static, it changes, so you need to stay informed. And they subtly nudge towards getting local expert advice, like, well, from agencies like them.
Makes sense. Okay, good overview of the market dynamics from their perspective. Let's switch gears slightly and talk about the advantages. Why choose Patong specifically? Being near the beach must be huge, right?
Oh, absolutely. Ocean Worldwide flags that as a primary draw. Just the convenience,
Yeah.
stepping out your door, a few minutes walk, and you're on the sand.
Living the dream.
Kind of, yeah. That whole beach lifestyle, morning swims, sunset walks, it's right there. Of course, like we said, Ocean Worldwide acknowledges you pay for that privilege. It adds to the price.
But for many, it's worth it.
They suggest so, yeah. For a lot of buyers and renters, that immediate access is a massive selling point.
And then there's the other side of Patong. The nightlife, the entertainment. It's famous, or maybe infamous for it.
Right.
What's Ocean Worldwide's take?
They describe it as vibrant. Bangalore Road is obviously the epicenter. It's definitely not the place you go for peace and quiet.
Huh. Understatement of the year.
Probably. But Ocean Worldwide points out it's not just clubs and bars. There's a huge range of restaurants, tons of shops, even cultural shows sometimes. So if you like being right in the thick of it, having everything on your doorstep, Patong delivers, according to them.
But again with the but, that noise, the crowds, surely Ocean Worldwide flags that as a potential issue.
They absolutely do. They call it a double-edged sword. That constant buzz, the sheer number of people, especially in high season, it can be a major turnoff for some renters.
Yeah, I can see that.
And maybe even for you if you plan to use the condo yourself sometimes. Ocean Worldwide actually suggests looking at somewhere like Bang Tao if quiet is higher on your priority list.
Okay, that's a useful comparison point. Bang Tao for quiet, Patong for buzz. So beach, nightlife.
Yeah.
What about the rental demand itself, beyond just yield figures?
Ocean Worldwide really highlights the strength of that demand as a key plus point. Because Patong is just so globally popular with tourists, there's generally this steady stream of people needing places to stay, especially during the peak months.
Which is great if you're relying on rental income.
Exactly. Huge plus for income generation. But, and we keep coming back to this based on their insights, strong demand also means
Strong competition.
you got it.
Yeah.
So Ocean Worldwide circles back to the need to make your property stand out. Location helps, good amenities, professional management. It all matters to cut through the noise.
Okay, so it sounds appealing, but definitely not without its issues. Let's focus on those challenges Ocean Worldwide identifies. What are the big ones?
Well, we've kind of danced around it, but the noise and crowds factor is a big one they reiterate.
Right.
While it attracts some, it actively puts others off, could limit your pool of potential renters, and maybe even impact resale value down the line. Not everyone wants to live above or next to the party central, as Ocean Worldwide implies.
Makes sense. And you mentioned the sheer number of condos before, that market saturation point that Ocean Worldwide likely dives into.
Yes, they explicitly talk about the risk of market saturation, just a high concentration of similar properties.
So fighting for the same renters and buyers.
Pretty much. Makes it tougher. Which is why Ocean Worldwide gives that practical advice. Maybe you need to renovate yours to a higher standard. Be sharp on your pricing. Make sure your management company is absolutely top-notch.
Or even look elsewhere.
They do briefly suggest that, yeah. Maybe consider other parts of Phuket if you want to avoid that really intense competition you find in Patong.
Okay. And the elephant in the room, for many foreign buyers,
Mhm.
the legal stuff. Sounds complicated. What does Ocean Worldwide flag as key regulatory things to watch out for in Patong?
This is super important, and Ocean Worldwide really emphasizes how complex Thai property law can be, especially for foreigners. They mention restrictions on foreigners owning land directly, for instance. It's crucial, they say, to really understand the legal side before you commit.
So get a lawyer involved early.
Absolutely non-negotiable, according to Ocean Worldwide. Get proper legal advice, and they also remind people that rules can change, so you need to stay updated. It's not a one-and-done check.
Definitely sounds like expert help is needed there. Okay, so Patong isn't the only game in town on Phuket Island. Ocean Worldwide mentions alternatives. What about, say, Karan and Kata? How do they compare?
Ocean Worldwide positions Karan and Kata as, generally speaking, quieter options than Patong. Still popular, still got tourists and expats, but the vibe is more relaxed.
Still got nice beaches, though.
Oh yeah, lovely beaches. Good restaurants, too, just
Yeah.
less frantic. Ocean Worldwide suggests property prices might be a little lower than Patong, but maybe not dramatically so. Could be a good middle ground if you want some life, but not the full-on Patong experience.
Okay. And Kamala. That name often comes up in the context of luxury, right? Is that what Ocean Worldwide suggests?
That's definitely the impression they give. Kamal is often seen as more upscale, more serene. You find a lot of high-end resorts, villas there.
Less crowded beaches, too.
Generally, yes. Ocean Worldwide hints it's maybe better suited for families or couples looking for that quieter, more exclusive feel. Price is likely higher, though.
Right.
They also mention it's a bit closer to some of the island's cultural spots, which might appeal to some.
And way down south, there's Rawai. What's the picture reckoning? Ocean Worldwide paints of that area.
Very different again, according to them. Rawai has much more of a local Thai feel. You won't find the big clubs like Patong.
What's the draw then?
It's famous for its seafood restaurants, right by the water, a more authentic experience perhaps. Ocean Worldwide notes property prices are typically lower there.
But there must be trade-offs.
Yeah, the main one is it's further out, further from the main tourist hubs, further from the airport. So Ocean Worldwide suggests it suits people who really want that local immersion and don't mind being a bit more removed.
And I see Ocean Worldwide included a handy comparison table in their article. That must help summarize things.
Yeah, it's useful. Lays it out side by side. The area, the general vibe, typical price levels, the main pros, the main cons.
Right.
And the message from Ocean Worldwide is clear. There's no single best area. It totally depends on what you want. Your preferences, your investment strategy, your budget, all those personal factors come into play.
Okay, let's say after weighing all that, Patong still feels like the right choice, maybe purely for that rental engine. How do you actually pay for it as a foreigner? What financing options does Ocean Worldwide talk about?
They mention a few routes. Getting a mortgage from a local Thai bank is one possibility they discuss.
Is that easy for foreigners?
Not always straightforward, but doable. You'll need a lot of paperwork, proof of income, job history, credit score info, the works. Ocean Worldwide advises shopping around too, as interest rates can differ between banks.
Okay.
And they also mention you might not get as high a loan-to-value ratio as a local would, meaning you might need to put down a bigger deposit yourself.
Right, need a decent chunk of cash up front then. What other financial hoops does Ocean Worldwide mention for foreign buyers?
Well, there are the regulations around ownership itself. They reiterate that foreigners can usually own condo units, freehold, meaning outright ownership,
Okay.
but owning the land the condo sits on, or owning a house with land directly, that's generally restricted. Leasehold is more common there.
We'll come back to leasehold versus freehold. Anything else on the money side?
Yeah, the transfer process. Ocean Worldwide points out you have to bring the purchase funds into Thailand in foreign currency.
Ah, right. Not Thai baht from overseas.
Correct. It gets converted to baht by the Thai bank receiving it.
Yeah.
And there's usually specific bank paperwork needed for that, documenting the transfer is for a property purchase.
Sounds like more admin. What about the developers? Do they ever help with financing, especially for new builds, based on Ocean Worldwide's experience?
Yes, they say that's quite common, especially for off-plan projects ones you buy before they're finished.
How does that work?
Usually, you pay a deposit, then staged payments over the construction period can make it easier to manage the cash flow. But Ocean Worldwide gives a strong warning here. Check the terms very carefully.
And the developer's reputation.
Absolutely critical. Do your homework on the developer. Make sure they have a good track record of actually finishing projects on time and to quality. Lots of potential pitfalls if you don't.
Okay, financing sorted, hopefully.
Yeah.
Let's circle back to those legal points Ocean Worldwide stresses. Leasehold versus freehold. Can you break that down a bit more based on their explanation?
Sure. It's fundamental, and Ocean Worldwide really hammers this point home. Freehold basically means you own it all, lock, stock, and barrel, including your share of the land the building sits on, forever.
Simple enough.
And leasehold.
That's more like a very, very long-term rental. You get the right to use the property for a fixed period, often 30 years, maybe with options to renew, but you don't own the underlying land in the same way.
And for foreigners in Thailand, as Ocean Worldwide explains, because of the restrictions on land ownership, leasehold is a very common structure, especially for houses or land itself. Even sometimes for condos, although freehold is possible for condo units.
So the key thing is,
understand exactly what you're buying. Ocean Worldwide says read that lease agreement inside out if it's leasehold. Know the duration, the renewal terms. It massively impacts the long-term value and what you can do with it.
got it. And title deeds, the proof of ownership. What's the advice from Ocean Worldwide there?
Crucial. The title deed is the legal document saying who owns what. Ocean Worldwide stresses you must verify it's legit and that the person selling actually has the right to sell.
Sounds obvious, but I guess scams happen.
Unfortunately, yes. Which is why, again, they push hard on getting a good lawyer. They'll do these checks.
Mhm.
Ocean Worldwide also mentions different types of title deeds exist in Thailand. Yeah, the best one, the most secure, is called a shenote. It gives the clearest ownership rights. So Ocean Worldwide advises trying to get a property with a shenote if you can, and always, always get it checked by your lawyer.
So pulling it all together, navigating Thai property law, sounds like you really need a guide, as Ocean Worldwide implies.
Definitely. It's not something to DIY. Beyond leasehold, freehold, and title deeds, Ocean Worldwide mentions other things like the 49% rule.
What's that?
In any single condo building, a maximum of 49% of the total unit area can be owned by foreigners under freehold title. The other 51% must be Thai-owned.
Okay. Keeps majority control local.
That's the idea. And then there's that process of transferring the funds correctly and getting the right bank paperwork, like the FTF form, foreign exchange transaction form. It proves the money came from overseas for the purchase.
So many details.
There are. Which is why Ocean Worldwide's core advice is repeated. Hire a specialist property lawyer who knows the system inside out. They'll guide you, protect you, make sure it's all done right, worth every penny.
Okay, fast forward. You've navigated the legals. Thanks to your lawyer, Ocean Worldwide recommended finding, you own the condo. Now, if you're renting it out, especially from afar, property management seems essential. What's Ocean Worldwide's take?
Absolutely vital, they'd say. Ocean Worldwide frames it as much more than just collecting rent. It's about protecting your actual investment.
How so?
They handle finding good tenants, screening them properly. They deal with all the maintenance, the repairs, the day-to-day hassles, basically keeping the property running smoothly and keeping it in good shape.
Right. So, based on Ocean Worldwide's experience in Phuket, how do you pick a good management company in a place like Patong? There must be loads.
Loads. Ocean Worldwide gives solid, practical tips. Research is key. Check online reviews, ask for recommendations from other owners nearby, talk to a few different companies before deciding.
What makes a company reputable in their eyes?
Good track record, obviously. Transparency about their fees and exactly what services are included, deep knowledge of the Patong rental market specifically, and they need to be responsive, able to handle tenant issues quickly, manage repairs efficiently, make sure you're compliant with local rules.
And how does having a good manager actually help you make more money, according to Ocean Worldwide?
Several ways. First, they help set the right rent price. They know the market, what similar places are getting.
So you don't underprice or overprice it.
Exactly. Second, they handle all the marketing, good photos, descriptions, listing it effectively online and through their own networks. Third, that tenant screening process is vital for finding reliable people who pay on time and look after the place.
And they chase rent if needed.
Yeah, they handle collections and deal with any awkward stuff like late payments or if someone breaks the lease terms, takes all that stress off you.
And just keeping the place maintained. That must be a big part of the manager's job, as Ocean Worldwide likely points out.
Huge part. Ocean Worldwide stresses keeping the condo in top condition is crucial. Not just for attracting good tenants now, but for preserving its value long term.
What does that involve?
Everything from fixing a leaky tap or an electrical fault to potentially managing bigger jobs like renovations down the line. They'll usually sort out regular cleaning too, maybe garden upkeep if relevant.
So you need a clear agreement with them.
Definitely. Ocean Worldwide says make sure the contract spells out exactly what's covered in their standard fee and what costs extra. And they recommend budgeting separately for maintenance, having a pot of money ready for unexpected repairs.
Okay, makes sense. Now, crystal ball time. What sort of market predictions for Patong might Ocean Worldwide offer, given their long history there? Is it still seen as a good bet long term?
Well, they'd likely be looking closely at tourism recovery. That's so critical for Patong. How quickly and strongly tourism bounces back directly impacts property values and those rental yields.
Are things looking positive on that front?
Ocean Worldwide probably sees encouraging signs, but also ongoing uncertainties. Will the big spending international tourists, like from China, fully return? Could there be new travel hiccups? Economic slowdowns elsewhere affecting travel budgets? It's not a perfectly clear picture.
So some caution needed. What about the bigger picture, longer-term growth potential that Ocean Worldwide might see?
Generally, Phuket, including Patong, has had strong long-term growth. Ocean Worldwide would likely acknowledge that, driven by its global popularity. But they might also temper that with concerns.
Such as?
Things like overdevelopment. Can Patong handle more growth sustainably? Environmental issues are increasingly important too for maintaining the island's appeal long term. These are factors they'd likely consider.
And broader economic stuff. What might Ocean Worldwide suggest watching?
Key things like interest rates, obviously. Currency exchange rates, especially important if your rental income is in baht but your expenses are elsewhere. Government policies on property and foreign investment can always shift too.
So keep an eye on the news.
Yeah, monitor those indicators. Ocean Worldwide might also note that Patong isn't cheap. The cost of living is relatively high compared to other parts of Thailand, which affects rental potential and overall value propositions. Lots of moving parts economically.
Okay, moving away from pure finance. What's it actually like to be in Patong? Lifestyle factors Ocean Worldwide might bring up.
They'd likely paint it as, well, very lively and specific. Is that lifestyle for you? That's the question.
What about the community? Is there much of an expat scene?
Oh yeah, Patong has a big expat community. Ocean Worldwide would see that as a plus for newcomers, easier to connect, find people from similar backgrounds. But
Always a but.
because it's so tourist-focused, that sense of a tight-knit local community might be a bit diluted compared to other less touristy areas on the island. Ocean Worldwide might even suggest looking elsewhere if a really strong local feel is what you're after.
And just day-to-day living.
Yeah.
Amenities must be great, right? This
Yeah.
Ocean Worldwide would probably agree.
Absolutely. Convenience is a massive plus they'd highlight. Restaurants, bars, shops, supermarkets, transport like taxis, tuk-tuks, it's all right there, super easy.
But the trade-off.
Is the crowds and the noise that often come with that level of convenience can be pretty full on, which isn't everyone's cup of tea.
And experiencing Thai culture. Can you find that in Patong from Ocean Worldwide's perspective?
They might say, yes, technically, there are temples around you can find cultural things. But let's be honest, Patong's main identity, as Ocean Worldwide would likely concede, is tourism and entertainment. If deep cultural immersion is your goal, they'd probably point you towards other parts of Phuket where local life is more front and center. Patong is the party town, primarily.
Okay, so let's imagine someone listening is a first-time buyer, maybe never bought overseas before. What key tips would Ocean Worldwide likely give them for navigating Patong?
Number one, based on their likely advice, do your homework. Really thorough independent market research. Don't just rely on what an agent tells you.
What should they research specifically?
Look at actual past sales prices for similar condos. Check realistic rental yields, not just hopeful projections. Find out about any future development plans nearby that could impact things. Ocean Worldwide would probably suggest walking around different parts of Patong, too, getting a real feel for different streets and buildings. Talk to people.
So, boots on the ground research. What else?
Get local experts on your team. Ocean Worldwide's experience would tell them this is vital. A good solicitor specializing in Thai property law, we've covered why that's key. A reputable estate agent who really knows Patong inside out to help find properties and negotiate.
Maybe even someone else.
They might even suggest an independent property consultant, someone not tied to selling a specific property, who can give unbiased advice based purely on your needs and the market. Building that team is crucial.
Makes total sense. And just understanding the buying process itself, the steps involved, as Ocean Worldwide might lay them out.
They'd likely give a clear sequence. Find the property, make an offer. Then comes due diligence. That's the crucial checking phase by your lawyer. If all's good, you sign the purchase contract, pay the deposit. Then schedule the final payment and ownership transfer at the official land department office.
And keep remembering.
Leasehold versus freehold. Ocean Worldwide would hammer that home again. Understand exactly what type of ownership you're getting. It affects everything.
Okay, you followed all that great advice from Ocean Worldwide, done the research, got the experts, understood the process.
Yeah.
How do you actually evaluate if a specific condo in Patong is a good investment long term? What would Ocean Worldwide suggest focusing on?
They'd likely point to a few core things. First, assess the potential for the property's value to go up appreciation.
How do you judge that?
Look at its specific location within Patong. Are there new developments happening nearby that could lift values? What are the general market trends saying? It's about making an educated guess on future worth.
And the rental side, again.
Yeah, critically important. You need to figure out who you're trying to rent to. Is it short stay, tourists, expats needing longer rentals, maybe even locals?
Why does that matter so much?
Because different groups want different things. Tourists might prioritize being near Bangla Road. Expats might want quieter spots with good facilities. Knowing your target market helps you choose the right property and market it effectively to maximize that rental income. Ocean Worldwide would stress this alignment.
And then the bottom line calculation, ROI. Ocean Worldwide would surely emphasize doing the math properly.
Oh, absolutely. They'd insist on a detailed calculation of your potential return on investment. You have to factor in all the costs.
Not just the purchase price.
No way. Purchase price, renovation costs, if any, furniture, ongoing management fees, property taxes, insurance, maintenance fund, list it all out. Then you make a realistic estimate of your likely rental income, accounting for vacancies.
And compare the two.
Exactly. That ROI calculation is key to seeing if the investment actually makes financial sense. Ocean Worldwide would probably advise getting help with this from a financial advisor or a property investment pro, just to be sure your numbers are sound.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Based on everything we've gleaned from the Ocean Worldwide article, the big question: is Patong a good place to invest in a condo for our listener?
And the answer, as Ocean Worldwide likely concludes, is it depends. It really hinges on your personal goals, how much risk you're comfortable with, and what kind of lifestyle you're looking for or looking to offer renters.
So the potential is there.
Definitely. Patong's got that energy, that buzz, and proven tourist appeal, which fuels rental demand. That's a big draw Ocean Worldwide identifies. But you've got the counterpoints: the noise, the crowds, the high competition in the condo market, and those tricky Thai regulations for foreign buyers.
It's a balancing act.
It really is. If you thrive on that vibrant atmosphere and you're prepared to navigate the challenges, ideally with good local help, as Ocean Worldwide suggests, then Patong could work. But you have to go in with your eyes wide open, weigh the pros and cons carefully, and do meticulous research.
Well, this deep dive, using the Ocean Worldwide piece as our map, has definitely laid out the terrain in Patong, Phuket. And yes, we'll keep saying it. Phuket, P-O-K-E-T.
Yeah.
It's given us a solid look at both the sunshine and the potential clouds.
Absolutely. Ocean Worldwide's long experience there clearly provides a really valuable framework for anyone thinking about Phuket real estate, and specifically that very, very lively spot called Patong.
So considering all these factors that Ocean Worldwide brought to light, the energy versus the saturation, the strong rental potential against the legal hurdles, what single aspect of investing in Phuket, whether it's zeroing in on the perfect location for you, getting your head fully around the legalities, or forecasting that long-term growth potential, really warrants your deepest dive, your most focused attention right now? That's definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.